Those questions will be asked of each candidate. Each one will answer those questions. At the end, there will be an opportunity, if we have time, for audience members to ask questions. If you do have a question, please feel free to write it down. You can just put your hand up in the air and someone will come around and grab it and bring it up to the front here. So if you have questions. The candidates will have 3 minutes to answer the question. They don't have to use all 3 minutes, but we obviously, will give them those 3 minutes. Audience questions, they will have 2 minutes. If you are asking a question from the audience, please make sure to ask a question that is relevant to even the candidates that aren't in there now. So it's going to be, we don't really want to have current issues, things that are going to be more futuristic, that way everybody can answer it. So any questions about that? Okay. All right, so I get to introduce our keynote speaker. I'm going to just tell you how I met Gordana Shifanelli. I was at a Dan Cox rally. It was his kickoff event at Salewinds, and I was helping, and I was sitting with Sally, who was his campaign manager at the time, and I was going through names, and I said, Julie Giordano, and then Gordana Shifanelli. I'm like, I have to meet this woman, like our names are so similar. So I meet her, and she stands up, and she is this powerhouse speaking for Dan Cox. And it was so unbelievable, and I'm like, I have to be friends with this woman, she's amazing. And so I went up and spoke with her, and then I was invited to speak with her and our Congressman Andy Harris at a Constitution Day event. And so the Lower Shore Young Republicans have worked with her. What she has done for Queen Anne's County, which one? Queen Anne's, I'm making sure I had it right, yeah. So what she's done for Queen Anne's County, and I'm sure she's going to talk to you about that, is nothing short of amazing in what they were able to accomplish with their school board. So without further ado, I'm not going to take any time away from her, Gordana Shifanelli.
Thank you, Wicomico County. It feels great to be among you, patriots, and to talk about one of my top priorities in Cox-Schifanelli administration, incoming administration, and that is our children and our education system. So let's go back about 50-something years. I was born and raised in Yugoslavia. I don't know a lot of you, so I'm going to have to repeat how I got here. Not born here. Born in a country that no longer exists. I was raised in communist socialist system. Communism is a political and economic system where people are leveled to the same denomination. And I tend to explain how is it living in socialism, and I tell them it's like we are all equally miserable. We're all equally miserable. There is no individual drive or achievement to betterment because you can't go further from the ceiling they set for you. So I grew up in a country where everything was scheduled by the government. The government decides who's going to produce what. The government decides how much everybody are going to get paid. There is a formula, so if you went to school, you get paid X, and then if you have so many years of experience, you add a Y, and then you end up with a Z, that's your paycheck, and it is what it is. We all lived in government housing. The government housing can only have 2 bedrooms, no more. Regardless of how many family members you may have, it is what it is. But even in that kind of system, in Yugoslavia, I still think that the worst communist system had better education than the American system has today. That's a fact. Why? Because I'm talking to you in English, and English is my 3rd language. That means that the children in other countries start learning English sooner. But what does that mean to us that take English and adopt English? As we adopt English as our 2nd or 3rd language, we learn about the culture. We learn about the people. We can listen to the music. We can listen to the movies. We identify with heroes. We can read books. And we start opening horizons, and our views start getting bigger and better, that there's something else out there. So the curiosity kicks in among all these people not born in the United States. We all thought back when I was growing up, wow, America, what a great country that is. Look, all the music that comes from America, look at all the movies. Believe it or not, I grew up watching Little House on the Prairie. It was me every Sunday in English. I love that family. I love the Western movies. I love John Wayne and love Clint Eastwood. So I wasn't deprived from the culture, but I just couldn't have that freedom. See, you turn off the TV and the reality kicks in. You're no longer in a Little House on the Prairie. You're back in reality. You're back in communist, socialist country. So I grew up in that, and my particular interest was economics. So I was one of the top students in my high school. There were a lot of trade programs and trade schools, and my focus in high school was social sciences and economics. So there's actually something that's called trade program for those who are geared towards law, those who are probably, taking a path towards economics, and then there's gymnasium. Then those are the high schools that teach classical education. That would be logic, Latin, foreign languages, science being separate class, biology, separate class, chemistry, separate class, history, separate class, physics, and so forth. Not one big science. Every class lasts 45 minutes, and then students get to go out and take a break and go to the next class and do it that way. But one of the things that shook me to my core is when I had my first son. And my son is now 20, and he started elementary school, and at that time it was President Bush's No Child Left Behind program. And it was okay, it wasn't anything spectacular, but still back then I was wondering, how can you sit in 3 hours of language arts? And I keep telling Nick, how can you sit in a school, you only have 4 classes, and you have 3 hours language arts? And let me see math. And he would say math goes after lunch. And I keep thinking, how can anybody think with a full stomach? You have to have math the first thing in the morning. You have to be challenged. When you eat lunch, you want to go to sleep. Like, it just doesn't sound normal, but what do I know? So, keep complaining to my husband, who is exceptionally patient man. He is a retired Green Beret. His main characteristic is to be very calm and very patient. Needless to say, he was an intelligence officer and a sniper in the U.S. Army, 22-year veteran. And so he's exceptionally patient. His blood pressure doesn't rise. We do not argue at home. He always nods his head and said, all right, we'll take care of it. All right, we'll just take care of it, one step at a time. But we met in Yugoslavia. And so if you've been watching the news and watching the Ukrainians living in shelters and suffering through the bombing and the Russian aggression, well, that was me in 1999. The United States and NATO bombed Yugoslavia, dilapidated its people, and there is no more Yugoslavia. They destroyed that country. And people in America don't know why. They don't know what happened. Why would your tax dollars go to blow up my home country where I was born? Why would you do that? You had no idea why. At the time, we had Hillary Clinton when it was going on, when the war was going on. But at that time, the globalist progressives were destroying any country that would stand against protecting borders and legal immigration. And the people in that country were divided, not based on race, but based on religion. Because historical wrongs happened to people because of the different religious backgrounds. That's why they were fighting. That's why they could never find peace. Because there's always some wrong in history that happened. And then as long as this historical wrong keeps on being rehashed and brought forth and brought forward, there can never be end to historical wrongs, and we continue to rehash the wrongs and transfer those wrongs to the next generation. So that happened in Yugoslavia. In fact, everything that's happening in America today has already happened to somebody else, somewhere else. And so I was saved by my husband. He did bring me to the United States as his lawful spouse. And he did save me from the NATO bombing. But I lost my entire family, and I was just all by myself here on the Eastern Shore with a backpack that included my diploma, which is the economics degree, and I have the master's in economics, and my thesis was also in my backpack, and I did have a floppy disk with my work in my backpack, and that's how I survived bombing, and that's how I got here. And then, after like 2 weeks, I thought, I need a job. I need to start working. And so, since I was the economist, my husband said, well, what kind of work you want to do as an economist? So I kind of applied to different places. Ultimately, somebody said, why don't you go to Merrill Lynch as a financial advisor? You have the education and you can speak English fine. So you go ahead and try to build your own practice, being financial advisor to people with minimum asset amount of about $1 million, believe it or not, and you can help them reach their retirement goals, design their portfolios, plan for the retirement, do taxation, tax planning, wealth management. You can do that. So I didn't know what else to do, but went to Merrill Lynch, knocked on the door, and I said, I was told to come here. This is the place. I am the economist. I have a finance degree, so I would like to be financial advisor. And the first thing the hiring manager said was, well, do you have any friends? I said, no. Do you have any family? I said, no. Well, who do you have? I said, my husband. And he said, well, who told you to come here and apply for a job? I said, my husband. So he said, okay, let me guide you through this. In this company, you have to build your practice. That means you have to find clients. If you don't know people, how are you who's gonna give you their money to manage? How are you gonna find them? So I looked at that guy and I said, well, I will do whatever else they did. And he looked at me and he said, well, they had a call. I said, what's a call? He said, well, you have to buy a list of people and then you start down the list calling people. And I said, well, I don't have the money to buy the list. He said, well, how are you going to build your practice? I said, well, that's okay. I'll just take a phone book. I'll start with an A and I'll finish with a Z and see what happens. And so that's what I did. For the next 3 years, I was cold calling every single person in Maryland. I would commute to Baltimore, so I was calling Towson, Baltimore County, Queen Anne's County, and the surrounding counties from the phone book. And I kept calling and calling when it was legal, and calling until I survived, built my practice, and achieved my American dream. I was a standalone, self-sufficient financial advisor. And for the last 3 years, there were no vacations, there were no family planning. I was cold calling for Christmas, for Thanksgiving. I had no Thanksgiving to go to. That's what I was doing. I was cold calling and cold calling and cold calling. And guess what happened? I was done. I had people that trusted me. Those people are still, to this day today, my clients. And that tells me something else. That Americans are not bigoted people. The Americans are not racists. You're not xenophobes. You're nothing of the kind. Anything that the liberals portray or throw the names against you, you are none of that. And I am a proof that you're not. In America, everyone is equal and have every equal opportunity to succeed no matter what they choose to do. But that takes one thing: determination, perseverance, and hard work. It has been like that since 1600s and 1700s and 1800s. Everyone can achieve whatever they want at a certain price for a certain amount of time with a certain skills and determination. Work hard and you'll succeed. And I did. I succeeded. It was great. But then financial crisis happened, right? Financial crisis happened. The market went down. It was a complete financial collapse, and Merrill Lynch got absorbed by Bank of America. One of the things that we had as employees there was, if you work hard, they don't pay you overtime because it's a commission-based pay, but they do give you an award, like a little bonus, which was set aside for our retirement. Well, when Bank of America came, they said, sorry, all your retirement's gone, all of your hard-earned bonuses are gone, everything's gone, so goodbye. By then, I had the third baby on the way. I was 7, 8 months pregnant at the time with my third boy. And I came home, huffing and puffing when financial crisis happened. And I kept telling my husband, how is this legal? How can they do this? What do you mean all the retirement's gone? I didn't blow it off. Like, how can they do that? And my husband said, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in this. You're Miss Economist, you figure it out. And I thought, my God, but this doesn't make any sense. I had a decent savings in this wealth builder plan. How can they just say, forget about it? How can they just do that? Because, in fact, if I blew anybody else's money up, they would sue me. But so, wait a minute, so this was my thinking. Well, somebody blew off my retirement and that's just it? I don't think so. And it's not the American way. There was something wrong. So I started calling lawyers. And every lawyer told me I don't have a case. They said, you don't have a case. Oh, well, your retirement was in Maryland shares, so zero value of shares times thousands of shares, you still have zero. But wait a minute. I didn't cause this to be zero. I didn't put everything in Maryland shares. I had no chance to diversify. Remember they tell you, lesson number 1, don't put all your eggs in the same basket. Why, who put my eggs in the same basket? But no lawyer wanted to take my case. And 22,000 other employees were in the same boat as I was. But only one person thought that that's not America. That was me. I decided to go to law school, sue them, and get my money back. So I did. 3 years of law school, driving every day from Kent Island straight to the University of Baltimore School of Law, learning and fighting a lawsuit against the biggest wolves of Wall Street. You have one guess who won that one? I did. I did. What does that tell you? That you have to be smart, that you have to think through, that you have to read, research, and be determined. That the right is right and the wrong is wrong, and only the ones who persevere will win. Not only that I got my little retirement back, but 22,000 other Americans got their monies as well. And that is what one person can do. Only one. It was just enough for me to say, look, 7 attorneys told me I don't have a case. My husband says he doesn't know anything about employment law. I guess I'll have to go and figure it out. And I did. And that's like every one of us has this inside. When you feel something's wrong, when you know something's wrong, but that's the difference. There are some people that just don't do anything, and then there are other people who are so pissed, like me, who go 3 years of law study, take the bar exam, and go and take them to, until the point they give up and they pay what they owe to everybody. Not just me, but everybody. So I thought that would be the end of that. I was starting my family practice. I am a practicing attorney. I am barred in Maryland and I'm barred in New Jersey. And I was doing financial planning. I built that practice. Then I built the law practice, again from scratch. And I had 3 in diapers, and they were all growing slowly and happily in a household. And my husband deserves a medal because he is the biggest supporter and the biggest help. Cooking dinner, putting them to bed while I was working and studying. But we did it as a team. And so, 2020 comes around. I had no intention of being anywhere near politics. In fact, I hate politicians. So, if there are politicians in this room, I hate you, but I won't take this against you. I just simply do. I hate politicians. The reason I hate politicians is because sometimes they don't do what they say they will do, and they don't stand behind their words, and I just hate people like that. Sorry again, but that's just me. So anyway, I got this letter from our superintendent of schools, and that letter said, defund the police, that we are in Queen Anne's County, all races, and that, Marxist, and that as trained Marxists, they're there to destroy the family unit, which I thought was like, well, that's true. You know, the school or the government takes over the family. In fact, the religion was banned when I was growing up. I had no idea what I even was, because it's illegal to practice religion in the former communist countries. So I was actually begging my classmate when I was 24 years old to go to church and just get baptized, just to say that we are Christians. We were not Christians as children. So when I saw that charter, and when I saw that my superintendent is promoting political organization, I realized that there is something rotten in America, and that somebody's got to speak up against that, but nobody did. So again, it was on me. I went on Facebook and I said, look, it's not okay to get children to Wall March or whatever as social justice warriors, because the timing of that letter was parallel with the events that were happening in D.C., like burning Lafayette Church and protests and Antifa smashing people's businesses. I did not think that was okay. Well, after I said it's not okay to march with the children against the police, guess what happened? Black Lives Matter went after me. They went after my job. They went after my home. They started organizing how to get me fired, slandered, silenced, and they were vicious. I won't joke with you. There were 13 criminal harassment charges that were pressed. There were people who I've never met in my life that were going after me as a person, and I don't even know who they are. We never met. We never spoke. They don't know who I am. In the past 7 years, I've been a professor at the United States Naval Academy. So the Naval Academy reached out and asked if I could teach 2 courses. I was teaching law and economics, and I was teaching financial markets and institutions to the graduating midshipmen. And it was crazy to see what they were doing to me at the Naval Academy. They were bombarding that institution with demands that I get terminated. They were vicious. That's not American either. And I know that no one has the right to defame or slander anybody. No one has legal right to go after anybody's business. No one has the right to tortuously interfere in anybody's contractual relations. No one has the right to intentionally inflict emotional distress to people. Because if you go to your home and you find in your mailbox, we know where you live, you're not going to be happy. You don't know who's watching you. You don't know who's after you. But those are the KGB strategies and tactics that in communist countries, they have, not in America. So my first inclination was to call my representatives. We in Queen Anne's County had 6 Republicans that were commissioners, and we also had Republicans that were in the House of Delegates and the Senate. Guess what happened? No one dared to speak up. No one even dared to issue, look, a statement. We cannot allow citizens to threaten any other citizens. No one said a word. They put their head in the sand. So what did I do? I had to become louder. I had to become bolder. I had to start speaking. So that was June 2020. So by the end of June, I asked my husband to run for office. And of course, anybody that says including with the election knows that we were not on the ballot. How can you run for office if you're not on the ballot? Well, there's an exception. You can ask people to write your name on the ballot. If you're not on the ballot, you can ask citizens to write your name on the ballot. Well, figure the odds of winning the election. If you're not on the ballot, and you're at the end of June, early July of 2020, and you have August, September, and early election starts October. That's when it started. October 26th was early election in Maryland, 2020. So we had 2.5 months to organize the election. First of all, find candidates. I had my husband, and I had to find somebody else because another district, District 2 in Queen Anne's County had an opening, and I had to find somebody else. So I knocked on doors, just like I would normally do, and then I asked a woman who I saw has a Humvee parked in front of her pet shop, and she has an American flag on that Humvee, and that for me was enough. That for me was like, okay, that's a patriot. So I knocked on her door and I said, look, who is the owner? Are you the owner? And 2 weeks had over 3,000 parents. And I said, we, the parents, and Canadian Patriots would like you, Helen, to run for the school board on a write-in campaign. And she was just shocked with somebody walking up to her and telling her that. But she said, well, look, that's not how you do it. You have to be on a ballot. I don't think you know what you're talking about. Okay, fine. You know what you're doing. We're gonna write your name anyway, and that's how it's gonna be. She said, well, I gotta pray. She's really religious, and she's a decent conservative. She left the Republican Party when Larry Hogan started tweeting against Trump for some reason. I don't know how good did that do to anybody, but anyway, that's what he did. And Helen and Mark got to know each other, and those two were the writing candidates. And believe it or not, we didn't eat, we didn't sleep, we fought for the kids. 12,000 votes later, we made history. And those two people on the write-in are now at our Queen Anne's County Board of Education. And our Queen Anne's County is doing phenomenal. It is amazing to see that somebody who's not even on a ballot can get into the office by the will of the people and the people who are volunteering at the polls. So I thought that was the end of that. And then I got a phone call from Dan Cox. And I said, wait, what? Oh, he would like to consider me running for office as his lieutenant governor. And the first thing I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not working for the government. I hate government, I'm not working for the government. And he said, wait a minute, calm down. You're not going to be working for the government, you're going to be working for the people. We need to clean Maryland's education system. We need to educate the voters. We need to educate parents and grandparents. That was a year and a half ago. Since then, I brought you what's been passed from the state of Maryland, Hogan's 13 appointees, Education and Health Framework. According to this education and health framework, sex education takes the center focus of our educators. How many members of the household? In fact, it recognizes that there are different types of families. They're talking about transgenderism, transgender families. But if you just look at this blown up chart from the Maryland State Board of Education framework, it doesn't give you an option of mom and dad as a traditional family. It has every other family. It has single parent, same gender parent, integrational parent, blended, interracial, adoptive, foster, but there's no traditional mom and dad family in this family health and education framework. By the time the student gets to 4th grade, they cannot even opt out from sex education that's pushed into the schools. After 4th grade, they can opt out from certain topics. They do identify a trusted adult. It's no longer a parent, but it's a trusted adult. The age of consent in Maryland has been turned down to 12. So if you have a 12-year-old person, that person can consent to receive medical treatment without consent or knowledge of their parents. The 12-year-olds that I know can't decide what they're going to have for breakfast, let alone what they're going to have to do with their body. Nowadays, we have some teachers promoting what type of gender they might be and what kind of pronoun they should call themselves. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor to help Dan Cox eradicate this bizarre, extremely dangerous political ideology from our children's education. I would like to focus to classical learning. I would like our children not just to learn biblical notes, but to understand logic, to learn the difference between formal and informal logic, to learn one, maybe two foreign languages, to go back to the historical trends and literature that existed at the time, to go back to the traditional math, to go back to writing, learning, and doing cursive and being able to sign their names as opposed to carrying Chromebooks and not being able to write or read or think. We can't promote transgenderism and deviated sexual practices to small children because we destroy their childhood. We destroy them, we create them as a depressive, mentally disturbed individuals. We cannot let this fly by any longer. And as a result, I've been on a campaign trail every day. I'm crisscrossing the state. My words resonate. These disasters in our education systems occurred not because you've done something wrong, not because I've done something wrong, but under the guise of a Republican Larry Hogan. And that is why we have 10 Democrats, 10 high-profile Democrats running for the next governor. Do you really think that they're running for the governor because Larry Hogan's record is great? Our state became #1 state for the exodus of people from Maryland. People can't retire here. Our education is dilapidated and totally toxic. The toxicity and hate that's promoted through our secondary novels, where the students are learning how to hate America and not love America, is taking precedent, and we have a record suicide rate. Last Christmas, my son's classmate committed suicide. That was the second classmate that committed suicide in Queen Anne's County for Christmas, just last Christmas. We cannot have our children cutting their veins, committing suicide, on drugs, depressed, and morally deprived. They lost compass, and it's our responsibility as adults and parents to return them back to happy childhood, future that they can see. They have to see there's a bright future ahead, not deviation of transgenderism and queers running around and dancing as if they're clowns, because they are. The kids need to know that these people are clowns and that these are not realities under which we need to live. We have to return to the substance. We have to return to respect. We have to return to common sense. And that, I think, resonates so much that without money, we are running a campaign on a complete grassroots, but yet Goucher poll yesterday came, we're up 3 points in the lead. Do you know why we're leading? We don't need campaign managers to give statistics. We need parents and grandparents to stand against communist, socialist indoctrination, starting with elementary schools, and start cleaning up our state. We had 100 years of Democrat leadership. Look what it got us to. Look where we are today. I think we all deserve better. We're still Americans. No matter how hard things can be, we can stop the insanity that has been pushed on us. And I think not only that we have a valid path to win,